So welcome everybody to Monday night Develop My Person book clubs. And tonight we're reading the section in Today I Begin a New Life on Intrinsic Validation, right? Yes.
Yep.
I thought this was a really thought-provoking section. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. Not that a lot of the book wasn't, but I don't know. I'm curious to hear what you all thought of it and what kind of stood out to you.
I'm not a very good listener.
It sounds like none of us really are. So it's a skill we can all work on. I love that.
Yeah.
What else?
Well, I read the wrong part.
Oh, that's okay. So
I didn't get to read this one, but when you talked about listening there, I can tell you one thing. I'm like almost deaf in both ears. Oh. And seriously, so when I had gone to an audiologist because I was having some trouble with my vertigo, and he had said to me, I bet people think you're a great listener and everyone comes to you with their problems, don't they? And I said, yeah. And I kind of, how did you know that? He says, because I can tell you're reading my lips right now and you're really intently looking at my face and all my expressions. I know you're not hearing everything I'm saying, but you're reading it. So that's
I've learned fascinating, though.
So, but a lot of times I don't. Like if my kids are doing stuff in the background, and they'll accuse me of ignoring them, and I call it my selective hearing. I mean, I do hear them, and I know if it's something important, I can turn my attention to them right away, but I've been able to compensate and learn how to focus where I need to focus when I need to focus.
That's awesome. It kind of forces you to tune in and really pay attention to people.
It really does. So walk around one day with earplugs in your ear and just kind of look at people. And the more you see what they're saying with their expressions and everything else, it just makes it that much more meaningful sometimes.
Well, you truly do hear them, because this section, when you read this section on intrinsic validation, it really talks about listening for and watching for cues. And you are doing that naturally because that's how you're compensating for the loss of your hearing. That is really interesting. Yeah.
It does say that we typically see so much more, than we say. Never mind. Yeah, it talks about noticing others.
And I know one thing I've always heard too is that most people listen to reply. They don't listen to hear what's being said.
That's exactly what this section's about. So Kim, you just know.
Oh, okay. Well, that's all my training from state government. So, because we did a lot of the testing your understanding. So it's like repeating back to someone what they just said. And we called it testing your understanding. And we'd always make jokes and stuff about it. But it was serious. I mean, even though we did that in fun, it really was true that by repeating something back to someone, you were able to understand exactly what they were saying, and the communication lines were a lot better.
Yeah. That's awesome. So anybody else have a comment about that part of it?
I guess I was thinking in the first part that we were reading about how it was kind of a game for her. She had to do the green flags and the red flags. I feel like I am a person that focuses more on things that are not, I guess, more nitpicky. Like not necessarily like coworkers or anything, but Chris and like my kids and stuff, instead of doing the opposite. And I guess that opens my eyes a little bit, that maybe they would do more for me if I flipped my role and made them a more positive versus negative. Now, I use that at school. I just don't do it at home,
That's really true, don't you think? We do tend to be the most hard on our family and the people that we love the most.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. That's good. What did you think about the red flag, green? Somebody want to explain that to Kim since she didn't get a chance to read this part, the red flag, green flag game?
Sure.
Is that like the game we played when we were kids? Where
Okay.
you turned your back on somebody and said red flag, green flag, and they kind of move forward and backward?
Nope, not quite.
Nope.
I mean, basically, she was asked to do something for a week. Oh, go ahead.
No, you do it, Shiloh. Do it.
She was asked to basically do a kind of like a game for a week, and she had to pick out, I guess the green were the good things in the people, and the red were, and try not to focus so much on the red. And she called like after a couple days, if I remember right, and she basically said that she spent most of the time judging people versus finding and learning more about the people she works with and finding those green flags. So, I mean, I think that's a big eye-opening thing because I think society as a whole, even if you watch the news where we focus on the negative things, you hardly ever hear of anything positive that happens within our country, you know?
Right. So much negative. So, yeah, basically just that was her assignment, to focus on just the green flags, the good things about people. And she said it was fun for a couple of days, and then it got really hard.
Yep.
Yeah, it got really hard to just stay focused on the positive about people. She's in that insight into herself was really powerful. I think we just don't realize how critical we are and judgmental we are of people.
I thought the key thing there that sorry, Jamie.
Nope, go ahead.
I like that she said that she was missing the opportunities to really connect with people. And I think that kind of went back to kind of what we were reading about last time, is that connection with people and really learning about them. And then as I was reading about the guy, about the beard and stuff, and how just initial conversation, how it flipped that really quick on him. And you learn so much more by one simple noticing of something. So, yeah.
So that one was, they went to dinner. Dave and a bunch of his people, they went to dinner, and the waiter had a really, really, really manicured beard and mustache, which would have required him some significant time to take care of. And he kind of said something about it. He said, wow, how do you get your beard like that? That must take a lot of time and effort. And he was being very sincere about it. But the guy really perked up, and, that's something he was really into. And they had a little bit of a conversation about it, but they got like fabulous service from him because they had focused on something that he was interested in first. Yeah. Well, that was a good one. I thought that was really, how often do we not do that? We're so focused on our thing that we don't, especially people who serve us. I thought about that a little bit this weekend, Jamie, when we were, we rode in an Uber a couple times, and, that kind of thing. And who was it? I asked, was it last week the book talked about a guy who had a tattoo on him? And David asked him about the tattoo.
I don't remember that part.
Oh gosh, where was it? What did I read? Anyway, he's told a story about that before, but I know I've read that somewhere where he'll ask someone about a tattoo, and he said, I don't have a tattoo, and I'm not really interested in tattoos. But a couple times they've talked about different people have had maybe an elaborate tattoo, or maybe one that maybe had some significance. And this one was, I can't remember what it was, but it was on his, it was in the book. Actually, it's in another book I'm reading, sorry. But it relates. So they asked him about it, and anyway, no, it wasn't. It's in this book somewhere. But he had a tattoo on in 3 places. One on his back, one on his heart, over his heart.
It was a cross.
A cross. Do you remember this now?
Yeah, but I can't remember where it was from.
Yeah, but he was talking about this guy, and he'd been pretty quiet. And he asked him about it, and it had to do with he wanted Heavenly Father to, he wanted Christ to watch his back, and he wanted him in his heart. I mean, it had very significant. It was very. He'd really deeply thought about it and had significance to it. This was a guy that maybe had been in the military or something. I can't remember where I read it, but it was really. But Dave has done that a couple times. He's talked about that, where he's noticed something that someone has done like that, and it really has nothing to do with what we feel about tattoos or those kind of things. But if someone went to that much time and energy, often there's a lot of significance to it. Mm-hmm. And when you ask them about it and you sincerely are interested in them, they just light up.
We had to do an experiment one time where we had to say something nice to every strange person we met. That like going out to the store or anything else, when you pass by somebody or they open the door, you just had to say something like, "Oh wow, I really like your shoes," or "Oh, cool dress." And it was really difficult for me to do that, but it was amazing how somebody that would be walking by you not paying any attention would just kind of perk up and, "Oh well, thank you," and get a smile on their face, and and then of course you're smiling as you go away, and it's hard to do though. It's especially if you're not a real go-getter type person like that.
Real chatty, yeah.
Well, both my girls are. I mean, they'll talk to anybody anywhere and make best friends with them in 5 minutes. And I've never been able to do that. And it just still amazes me that everywhere we go, that I go with them, there's never a stranger for more than a few minutes.
But it is amazing how that little thing is very meaningful to someone. And when I gotta let my dog out, he's just sitting here staring at me. Just a minute. You want to go outside, buddy? No. Then he just looked at me again. But it is. I just. I think about, I saw someone the other day and I thought, I should say something kind to this person. And they were just, obviously they live their life differently. Do you know what I mean? And I'm sure life can be hard sometimes. And I thought probably if I would have just said something kind, it would have been really appreciated. Sometimes people feel, I think, so invisible.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And for me personally, sometimes that's my goal, to be invisible. I'll go places and honestly, we're not helping anybody by doing that. No. Or being helpful.
And not even helping ourselves either. I mean, that's something that I don't think about is, and I do feel better, inside when I am kind to somebody, and when I do take the time to ask them, a question about themselves, then afterwards you leave that experience and you do feel better. But I forget that personally, and so sometimes I just will avoid, like you said, like to be invisible, just do my thing and be done. But I do feel so much better if I do engage people and I notice them and I ask them something about themselves. But sometimes I forget that. Mm-hmm. We are so self-centered.
Well, in the chapter talked a lot about, how we worry about what other people think about us. Yeah. And I think Jamie and I had a conversation about that this weekend. It seems like, and how little people really do think about us.
Yeah, and this book said the exact same thing in here that we were talking about, that people aren't thinking about you. I can't remember where that is, but I highlighted it. But yeah, I've read that more and more, so that must be something that I need to work on.
Yeah, not worry about what other people think about, because for the most part, they're not thinking anything about you. And often if they do think something snarky, it's because they're
It's their
insecure
red
about
flag.
something. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I did like, he does have some really vivid pictures for you to think about. Like, I like the fortress. I don't know if that was a dream or if he was just describing that, but like how he left his fortress. And when he actually looked out his front door, he thought he was, I think, the only one in his fortress. And then he looked out and he saw, a whole hillside full of them. And once he started going around and, just kind of cracking the door a little bit and asking a question, that was the one big thing I got out of this chapter, was asking questions, and and just keep asking questions. And I know, like, later on it talks about the pitfalls that you can have, and I highlighted 2 of them that I know that I do. And I know I do it because sometimes it annoys me when other people do it to me, and I've just recently heard if something annoys you about that person, it's probably something that you're doing that. So it was about, prematurely telling our stories. Like, so instead of just, you're talking to somebody in conversation and they're telling you something, to be present in that moment when they're telling you, and to really engage, listen to them and keep asking them questions versus interjecting with, well, yeah, I did that once too, or yeah, I did that and this is how I felt. And I'm bad about that with my really close friends, my family, because, I'm so excited to talk to them, I guess. And you just forget that it's okay to take a pause and just let them tell their story.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you connect better with that person. That's how you build that trust better, is, not to just interrupt them and tell them how you felt or give them advice. That was another one, that I don't think about. People come and they ask you for advice, so you think they really want it, but they really don't. And I think somewhere in here it said, to ask a question before you start talking. Just say, do you really want my advice, or do you just want me to listen? And if they say, I just really want you to listen, then just be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know me personally, sometimes I don't want people to tell me how to fix whatever it is I'm going through. I just want them to listen to me, and that's it. Mm-hmm. So I've had to tell my husband that before too. I'm like, I don't want you to tell me what to do. I just want you to listen. I know it sounds like I'm asking you for help, but I'm not. I just want to tell you and then be done.
Uh-huh. Yep. Anybody else like that one?
Oh, yeah. That's a big one, especially with kids and grandkids, because sometimes all they want to do is just get their day off their shoulders. And a mom or grandma, we want to fix it for them. And our first instinct is, well, you need to do this, or you need to do this, or maybe we should try this. And they're like, no, just listen. All I want to do is vent.
Mm-hmm. I wonder sometimes when they start talking to us, though, if they don't even realize that that's what they want. And for us to ask at the beginning of the conversation when they start, I'm not good at this yet, but I'm working on it. And I remember one time I asked, do you want me to am I just listening? Would you like me just to listen, or do you want me to give my feedback, or want me to give you some feedback after? And they kind of, can't remember which daughter it was, kind of paused. Well, I just want you to listen. And I thought, okay, really, you think about it, all I have to do is, that really takes the burden off, especially when you're the mom and you're thinking, okay, how am I going to fix this? I don't have to fix it.
It's true.
Yeah. Kind of fun.
Yeah.
All right. What else, gang?
Oh, man. It was a good section.
Mm-hmm. What did you think of that conversation that he had about the wife who came home? I don't know if it's an actual conversation or one he's.
I think it was just a role playing thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one, that totally happened. Yes, totally, all the time.
Mm-hmm. I think it happens with our kids too, where they come home and they'll say something, so-and-so's mom and dad are getting divorced, or I don't know, so-and-so's, doing this or that, they tell you a story, and they're, for us to read between the lines, you have to really focus on that person. You can't just listen to what they say.
And that's like just everyday life. You come home and you're so busy trying to do your dishes or your laundry or whatever, and your kids are trying to tell you something, or your spouse is trying to tell you something, and you just totally, answer them real short. And that was another thing in here about communicating. People say, how are you doing? Or, I'm having an awful day. Me too. And then that's where the conversation stops, instead of you actually stopping and engaging that person and trying to understand why they're having an awful day. And so, yeah, same thing with your kids. They come home and they say, I've had a bad day. Oh, okay, well, supper's going to be ready at 6 o'clock or whatever, so go do your homework. So that was a big one.
Or even the standard, oh, fine.
Yeah. Yep.
No.
Really, I do find that a lot. Like, you run into somebody and you say, how are you today? Oh, I'm good. Okay, good. And they'll say, how are you? Oh, I'm good too. And that's like the standard answer. But most of the time people aren't good, or, maybe they really are. But like, that's just, and I've thought about that before, that we do sort of lose that connecting with people by just, spouting off those standard answers instead of actually engaging them in a conversation. Mm-hmm. And back to the husband and the wife thing. So then he replayed how that conversation could have went down. And I guarantee you that would have taken the exact same amount of time that it took for the original conversation, but yet it had such a much more positive ending to it. And so that's something I thought about too, is it doesn't take that much more time to be more thoughtful in the questions and be more empathetic in asking those questions, instead of, just they say something, so you say a statement. They say a statement, so you say a statement, instead of asking a question.
So I think it could open the door to more time. And I think sometimes we do come to those things and we are not ready to give that time.
Yeah. And it did talk about that too, about, in the dangerous landmines section, where it has all those numbered out, and it talks about this takes too long. And so it talks about, the conversation is probably going to take longer than what you want. But honestly, just connecting with people, that's one of the most important things in life. And we take that for granted, and we do all these other things that are time suckers and time wasters. But the most joyful, most meaningful thing in life is really just to connect with people. That's what we're made for. We're not made to live it alone, be invisible.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's all about creating trust and lowering those walls. They talked a lot about that, and creating a safe place to be someone who is safe to share with. That agape love. He talks about agape love in several sections. And really, and I always say, well, agape love is Christ-like love. It's the same, And I don't know. I just, we talk a lot about having Christ-like love, and sometimes in the past I've thought, well, what is that? Really, what is that? How do you have that? And these books and what Dave has done has really helped me kind of have I don't have it totally defined because I'm not Christ, but it's helped me to really come to understand what that means more. And you're right, it's about making connections with people. And
I think it's kind of making the connection not only on your level, but on their level too. I mean, a lot of times we'll force people to be at whatever level we feel we're at, or we want to keep them in their level instead of trying to make, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Mm-hmm. He does talk about, he kind of uses a visual of he talked about the fortresses, but he talks about stepping into their fortress, for them to welcome you into their fortress. and being with them in their space, and then asking permission, like if there's something that you feel like you can help them with, asking their permission to take them out of their space into your space. And he does talk about that.
That was the suit. That was another one I really liked, was the suitcase, that you carry 2 suitcases, your agenda and your personal baggage. And you need to throw your personal baggage in the trash, and you need to set your agenda at the door and go in and just be present in their space. I did like that analogy too. That was good.
And I like that, even though sometimes his analogies reflect kind of a business orientation, this is so relevant to any conversation you have, or any person, anybody you talk with. All right. Oh gosh, that went by fast. Anything else, you guys? This was just a really good chapter or section.
I just will note, like, in the principles I have learned, that number 7, I cannot fill my empty cup by draining the cup of others, but I can fill it to overflowing when I practice agape love. I really like that one.
I like that too. That was a really good one. And it's true. Now, I've thought about different people, just as an observation, who are always craving your attention. They never seem to get enough. But it's because, I think it's because they're just what you said with that number 7. Let me pull that again. Shoot, too dang quick. Because their cup is empty. They've got nothing to give, and they're trying to they're trying to have you ever felt like they call them vampires? They like suck your energy. Have you ever been around anybody like that?
Yeah.
Their cup is so empty, they're never going to fill it. And that's challenging.
Yeah. And those are probably the ones that need the compassion and the healing and help the most. And they're usually the ones you want to avoid, just because they are so negative.
And maybe that's what if we take a few minutes and really connect with people, maybe we can put a little bit in their cup, so that kind of primes the pump for them, Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll use major analogies here. Well, that was a fun section. Anybody have anything more they want to add? We don't have to end right immediately, but I just want to make sure. Has anybody got anything else they want to say? Because this was really fun. Okay. Let's, I looked at the section for next week, and I think what we should do is read, it'll be, we're in mental creation now. The next section is mental creation. And I thought we would go to the end of our secret desires and real intentions. So just before powerful practices. Powerful practices we'll do the following time. But so page-wise, it goes from 127 to 155. So good conversation, you guys, and I'll be interested to hear. Let's take that challenge this week and look for green flags, shall we? And just see how it goes. And let's see what we can. And let's also take the challenge to maybe help fill somebody's cup, and see how that makes our cup overflow. So, strive really not to be invisible this week, but strive to really connect with someone and see how that goes with us. And let's talk about that next week and see what we learned about ourselves. So it was great talking to you, and I'll put the recording up later today if anybody else wants to watch it. But Thanks for the wonderful conversation. You filled my cup. Thank you.
Thanks. See you later.
We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.